Welcome into Informal Conversations. I am your host, Leon Johnson. This is episode 5. And as you can see, we have our resident couple back for part 2 of this chronicling of their expat journey in New Zealand. My guests today are Stanley and Dr. Sylvia Johnson. How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Kia ora. Doing all right.
Listen, he's already hitting us with the local dialect. First of all, let me comment. It looks like you guys are on a cruise ship, or you're on some type of yacht or superboat. What's going on? I see some water in the background. What's going on right there?
Oh, well, we are currently in Queenstown, New Zealand. This is Sylvia's 40th birthday celebration, so we decided to... did I say Sylvia's birthday?
I think you said Sylvia was 25. I think that's what you said.
That's what I thought I heard.
I said that. I said that just in case you misunderstood what I was saying, you know. But no, we're out here. We decided to take a journey around the South Island and explore New Zealand. This is awesome and amazing country. The views are just breathtaking. I try to put up as many pictures as I can on Instagram, but it does not do it justice.
We got to get a real camera because the iPhones just don't do it justice.
No, it doesn't. So where we are right now, we're at the Reed's Hotel and Resort, and
we're on our balcony. And we got another balcony upstairs off the bedroom.
Where the kids are.
If y'all ever make it to New Zealand,
this is definitely a great hotel.
Definitely want to come to Queenstown. It is gorgeous. Yep. We took a ferry called the Inter-Islander from Wellington to Picton. And then we drove from Picton down to Christchurch, stayed there overnight, went and saw a play with the kids, which they loved. And actually one of the actors from The Hobbit was in the play.
Yeah, he's one of the main
hilarious.
actors.
He made some references to his role in The Hobbit. And then yesterday we drove from Christchurch to Queenstown, and along the way, oh my goodness, we saw some beautiful views.
All in all, I think that trip is 10 and a half hours from where the ferry drops us off to where we are in Queenstown.
So we broke it up a little bit.
Yeah, so we broke it up 5 and 5.
Awesome.
We listened to some blues. They played some blues live in Picton. Picton is this little tiny town on the South Island. I'm like, what is this?
Right below us was a restaurant with some blues. So we told our oldest son that he was on babysitting duty. And we went down to listen to some blues.
Yep.
Right below us.
Some drinks. Yep. Brought in my birthday. Yeah. So
good times.
Yeah. Awesome. So happy belated birthday to you, Sylvia. And
thank you.
Let me translate for y'all what I just heard.
Okay.
What I heard was they took a helicopter flight around the South Island, landed on their yacht. As y'all can see, the water's behind them, and they just been kind of cruising with, chauffeurs and stuff, going to these little towns, checking out some blues, and now they're in their rented Airbnb on the water. That's what I heard.
Is that what you heard?
Almost.
Kind of helicopter around me.
Listen, I got to spice it up for the people who are going to listen to this on the podcast and not go to YouTube. You know what I mean? And spice it up a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, look, in 2 days, we're going to take an excursion. Yeah, we're going to ride on a coach bus for 3.5 hours to this area called Milford Sound. And it's fjord country. So it's all these narrow waterways with these beautiful high mountains and waterfalls. And we're going to get on a boat there, go ride out to the waterfalls, see some of the wildlife, and then we're going to fly a small airplane back.
Yeah, a little charter plane back.
We're going to fly in, meaning there will be a pilot. That's about as adventurous as I get when it comes to flights.
Okay, for your podcast people, what she said was private jet back. Okay. You know something? I should have said this on the first podcast. You guys should have started up a separate Instagram account and chronicled the trip with all the pictures and stuff. I'm pretty sure that would have been awesome.
Yeah,
I might do that. I've been trying. I don't even post a lot. I don't like to post a lot, but I know that there's so many people that want to know what we're doing and what we're experiencing. So that's the only reason why I know over the past few days you've seen me put a lot of pictures on my stories and stuff like that, and that's just for those who are interested and stuff. But outside of that, I don't post a lot.
Do a separate account,
but I may do a separate. I don't know. It's
a lot of people being in lockdown again or just coming out of lockdown, they can kind of live vicariously through our travels and just have something to look at and to enjoy. Yes.
Yeah.
Something
I do it for whoever's interested. Yep.
Yeah,
and something y'all can monetize.
Yeah.
There you go. Then we can do the private jet for real.
Yeah.
That's right. We kind of started kind of informal. Let's kind of break it down.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing just overall? How are you guys doing? How are the kids doing? How are you assimilating to New Zealand?
I think we're doing great. I mean, I know I just got a year older yesterday, but I'm hoping I'm looking younger with just being less stressed, and the kids have transitioned into school so well, and that has been such a huge relief because that was the biggest worry coming to a country we've never been to before was how are the kids going to do? They got enrolled in school, and I mean, every last one of them, all four of them, love their schools. They're making friends. They like their teachers. I would say the educational expectations are much different here. I was going to say less at first, but I can't really say that for sure because what we're accustomed to in the U.S. is one style of education, but the way that they teach children here is different. But I can't say if it's better or worse because when I speak to adults here, they are very well educated, well read, quite knowledgeable about like race in America and just have frank, open conversations about it, which is so astonishing to me because I'm not accustomed to white people being familiar with our struggles. And so white people here in the Southern Hemisphere, halfway around the world, being familiar with the things that we face in the U.S. was quite astonishing. And it speaks, I think, to the level of education that they get here. The kids learn in a fun way is basically what I was going to say.
But not even familiar. They can appreciate, what I would say we experience in America. They try to relate to it, and in America you hardly ever have those conversations because it's too taboo and it's too like, hey, we don't want to talk about race. Don't bring up the race card. Don't address that right now. It's everybody that we've talked to or that we've interacted with. Like, I know America's going through something, the pandemic, but then they also reference like, man, the racial tension and stuff like that. I kind of try to like sympathize for our plight and stuff like that, which is something that you don't really get a lot of, in America because people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to have those discussions. And that's something that was kind of refreshing because even still, we bring some of that stuff over. When they bring up race, it's kind of like a take back. Yeah, I take it back like, oh, you talking to me about race? You know what I'm saying? Well, let's talk,
And this is like not even like people who we built substantial relationships with or anything.
They'll
this is
the
guy who's renting out the skates at the ice skating rink or
sitting in a restaurant and an older white couple comes up to us and, hey, where are you guys from? I've been to America. Great. This is wonderful. Welcome here. We need you guys here. I can only imagine the stuff that you go through in the United States, especially dealing with race. Just out of the blue, they'll come and they'll make us feel welcome.
Yes.
And appreciate it.
Yes.
So.
Two things you guys brought up. I was going to go more into depth about the kids, but I'll table that for a second and focus on this real quick. Do you think that could be because I think in the first pod we did, you talked about New Zealand being one of the only countries that was really never colonized, right? Am I mistaken?
No, it was colonized.
Yeah.
But what I think they were the last country to be inhabited. But when it comes down to colonization, they were colonized. However, I think they're one of the only people that, and I'm not well versed on all other countries, but what they did do, they tried to right their wrongs to the indigenous people that were here. Okay. They addressed those concerns and those issues. Now, of course, is it enough? We don't know, but it seems like it's an attempt. And even the schools that we go to, you see that the Maori culture is embedded or incorporated and valued in that culture. You know what I'm saying? So
about a week or two after Jasmine started at her school, they had a ceremony called the Poverty. And at the Poverty, they invited the family and friends to come, and they have the students doing the haka and saying, giving speeches in Maori language. This is a custom that they do to welcome new people. And it was absolutely amazing. Like, it really brought tears to our eyes just sitting there and watching the children sing and dance and all of this just to welcome the new students or the new immigrants to the school and to this country.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because to my understanding, what they do is that's that transition from, okay, you're a visitor to becoming part of the family. You know, so now you're no longer just a visitor here. Now you're part of our family. You know, and that's something that, you know, it really kind of like resonated with us, made you feel welcome.
At my office, at the clinic, the staff gets together in one of the rooms and we sang Maori songs for the first 10 or 15 minutes every morning. So they really make an effort to incorporate the Maori customs and traditions and culture so that those valuable culture is not lost. And so that's just one aspect with which they make efforts to, I believe, right the wrongs of the past. So when Europeans came here years ago, there was war, there was conflict, there was stealing of lands. So things that have happened in other areas that have been colonized also happened here. But it seems that the people here are making efforts to preserve the culture and to right the wrongs of the past. So they hold something kind of like a tribunal where people whose lands have been stolen can present evidence of that. And then there's a council that determines how to give them back either land or monies that have been lost and stolen. So there's a process here to try to correct and right the wrongs of the past. So that's what we were alluding to in terms of what this country is doing differently from what we've experienced in the U.S.
Okay, thank you for correcting me, because I was about to go down the whole line about where maybe because they don't feel as though their ancestors had anything to do with what our people are going through here in the United States. Maybe that's why they feel empathy for our plight. Maybe it's because they've dealt with their issues in their country. They can understand and sympathize with
We definitely feel a kinship to the Maori, because we can tell like they just, there's a connection. I don't know how to explain it. Like we go to a club and the bouncer there, he just like give Eddie a look. He recognizes him. We kind of stand out because there are many Black people here, but you know they just treat us with kindness and respect on a level where it kind of feels like, you know, we're family, kind of like how in the U.S. how we may do for other African Americans, and you know, that's really appreciated. But what we were even talking about just now is how white people here, so what they call New Zealand Europeans, who largely come from the United Kingdom, how they will have very frank, open conversations with us about race. And it's really mind-boggling to me that they're even kind of aware of some of the struggles that we face, but maybe from what they've learned here in New Zealand about what the Maori people have gone through, or what they've learned through their own travels and education, or through the media about some of the challenges that we face in the U.S. But it's just so refreshing to be able to have conversations about it, and for them to be so understanding and empathetic for the struggles that we faced. I had one patient whose mother and older brother came in for the session, and to help support the young girl. She's only maybe 11 years old, seeking services. And I called the mom a few days later to talk about what resources and the treatment plan that the team proposed. And she said, yeah, you know, my son, who had been at the visit, I think he's like 19 years old, he did some research about psychiatrists, and he said that, wow, they must have been going through a lot in the U.S. to leave the salary she was making there to come here. this is a really resourceful kid here. Because it's true, doctors do make substantially less here in this country, but it's really worth it for the extra time that you get for just administrative responsibilities. You get 6 weeks paid leave here. In the U.S., you might get 2, maybe 4 weeks, or a year off for maternity leave, things like that. Mm-hmm. So it's made up for the decrease in income in other ways. Anyways, his recognition that there must have been many other factors that we've dealt with specifically as African Americans in the United States that make it desirable to come live here was pretty profound. So I think just to kind of tie it all up is to say, sorry, looking at the kids through the glass here, trying to see what they're up to.
That's okay.
We're going to get ambushed down here. Here she comes. See, I made eye contact. That's the cardinal rule. You can't make eye contact.
It's interesting. I'm sorry. No, it's interesting. What you were saying is usually these conversations, like I'm going to name drop real quick. Dan, who was on our first call that I've known since back in the days when I was in, the Baltimore, D.C. metro area. Mm-hmm. Like, somebody I've known for 10 plus years, or Howard that I know. Those are conversations that I could have with somebody from a different background, and we could have those open and frank conversations. But, John up the street that I don't know, me and him can't have that conversation. But it seems like you guys can run into somebody that you don't know, never met, and have an open conversation about race. And here that's taboo, but there it seems like it's a regular part of conversation, part of everyday life.
It is.
That's awesome.
It is. It's quite amazing. Yeah. And so what I was trying to say about the educational system here is like, when we ask the kids, what did you do today? And they're like, we played, we had fun. And it's like, yeah, that's great. What did you learn? And then they can't really articulate a lesson, but then as they tell you more about their day, we were doing patterns and we had to hop over this person and then you had to roll and then you had to do this and that. And it was like, that was their math lesson to learn about patterns, not like triangle, square, circle, triangle, square, what's next. And then you have to know it's a circle. They did it with the kids playing and doing like leaping and jumping and doing tumbles and all. So it's like, wow, so they're learning. They're just doing it in a way that's so much more fun. And
it sounds something similar to like a Montessori way of learning. Is that what you guys would have played that to?
Yes. I would say that. Because when we first went to Jasper, he's in middle school. So we first went to his school and they were walking us around. And she told us, look, we do things a little bit different here. We're more hands-on as far as showing them how to utilize what they're learning in today's world. So as we're walking through, it's kind of like took me back because we walked to the shop, wood shop. You got kids in there cutting wood, building stuff in the wood shop. And she just walked up to a random kid like, hey, show him. So he gave us a whole little dissertation about his light that he created with this wood that he flipped on. And it was amazing. Yeah. And so we went to the next one. The next one, I believe, was like science or whatever. So just impromptu, she went up to these 2 little girls like, hey, what are we doing here? They had a beehive in the classroom. You can access it from outside, but the way they had it coming in, it was actually, you could see the bees. So she gave us another, just told us exactly what, the bees were doing. And, we found the queen bee and they just gave us a lot of information and it was impromptu. It wasn't like, okay, prepare for your, your PowerPoint, your dissertation today, prepare for your, it was just amazing how they were so involved and in tune, but it kind of felt like a college campus because the kids were free to move around and interact with whatever, you know what I'm saying? So
they don't have a cafeteria.
It's no cafeteria.
Lunch, you can eat your lunch in the classroom. You can go eat it outside. We saw all these children who were barefoot at Jasmine School.
Oh, I mean,
shoes are pretty much optional.
Yeah.
Most of the country, you can go in the grocery store and see somebody with no shoes on. So people are, in the office, they're just walking around in their socks and stuff. So it's very laid back, very chill,
but they're very intentional about what they teach the kids and how these kids will take that information and utilize it and make sure it's in a learning platform.
Do you know what's my phone?
Hold on 1 second, sorry.
No, I don't know where it is, but I'll give you my phone. Want to say hi real quick? Want to say hi?
Hey, how you doing?
Jazz, why don't you come around here? They can see.
Do you remember me?
How do you like New Zealand, girls?
Good.
Remember I came to your birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
How are you guys liking New Zealand?
Good. Oh, I'm sorry. You said good?
Yeah.
Okay. You ready to go back?
Yes. Okay. Where?
To Florida?
Hey, Jess.
Oh, get out of here.
Here's
All right. Sorry, Leon. Sorry.
That's okay.
All right.
See, people, informal conversations, anything's likely to happen, and it's all good because I run this. Listen, we don't have any corporate sponsors, so we ain't worried about Pepsi dropping in and saying, "Hey, Leon, we can't have that happen anymore. We're paying really good money for this airtime." Nah, we don't have that problem here. But hey, Pepsi, if you guys want to sponsor me, I'll leave my number. Y'all can call me up.
We're open.
Yeah. But that's awesome.
But yeah,
I mean, go ahead.
It's been an amazing experience. The way our kids are starting to flourish it's really mind-boggling to us because especially our son Jasper, he never spoke as he was always probably the smartest person in the house, but he never really opened up. But I'm seeing a whole new child now. He's more outgoing. He communicates with us. He tells us how he feels, and he loves it here. And the safety. Leon, we can just hey kids, going outside. We'll be in the house. All four of them will go to the playground. They'll walk about a mile away to the grocery store. And we don't have a care in the world. That's something that's always bothered us in the States. It's just so much crime, that's potential crime or potential harm that could be out there that you have to really be careful of when you allow your kids to start to experience that kind of freedom. So
it's a different kind of fear because I can say we've been quite privileged to live in really nice neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. But when you live in a nice neighborhood as an African American, you have to be concerned about other people feeling like you don't belong there, that your children don't belong there. Mm-hmm. And we've seen posts on the Facebook page for our neighborhood where people are questioning whether or not someone was supposed to be there, whether or not they lived there or belonged. And, it's always call the police, because someone is suspicious, but they're doing the most mundane thing.
They're doing legal activity. The only reason they're suspicious because they don't look like they belong.
Right.
Not that they're doing that, not that they're conducting illegal activity. They just look like they don't belong here.
According to them.
According to them, yeah.
Someone who belongs is supposed to look like.
And also just to kind of like along the same lines of what you guys are talking about, especially in Florida, allowing your kids to go outside without you, stuff that happens to children in this state is probably times 4 versus other places in the country. Kids being taken away from their parents, sex trafficking and stuff. It's very high crime rate here in Florida. So I understand.
Exactly.
It's definitely not the same as it was when I was growing up. When I could ride my bike down the street and go to Publix or the corner store and all that stuff. So being here, it's like such a breath of fresh air because I'm much less vigilant. I don't have to be that helicopter mom. I feel so much more reassured that the community is safe and they look out for one another. So I don't worry nearly as much, and I feel like we probably added years onto our life expectancy because the level of stress here. What did you say about when you got off the plane?
Oh man, when I got off the plane, it just felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulder. A dark cloud was removed. And that comes with as a husband, as a father. You're the protector. So you can very rarely let your guard down, when it comes down to making sure that your family's safe, and not to mention the stuff that we just mentioned a minute ago, that as a Black man, that we face, not only that we face, that I've seen, that I've experienced, in the United States. It's hard to really, feel free, because you feel like you're always on guard. I feel like I'm the Queen's Guard. If you go to Europe, even though I've been, the guard that just don't move. They just stand there all day long.
Oh yeah, they stand out in front of Buckingham Palace with the hats on.
Buckingham Palace. That's me. That's my Buckingham Palace, and I gotta protect it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you're always on edge, or into that protective mindset that you really can't allow yourself to be free. So that's something that when I walked off that plane, it felt like just like a dark cloud, man. A lot of weight was lifted off of my shoulders, because now I feel like we can interact and maneuver in a mindset, or freely, without having to worry about some of the things that we have to worry about in the States.
Okay. Well, let's switch gears. You said stepping off the plane, so now I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So you guys were in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
You flew to the U.S. You had to get COVID tested before you got on the plane. Everybody, thank God, was negative. Huh?
No.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No.
So you flew to L.A. to New Zealand in Auckland. You were COVID tested.
Then we got COVID tested. We got COVID tested the second day, because nobody comes into the community at all in New Zealand without having a 2-week quarantine, managed isolation. Okay. So in that managed isolation, you get COVID tested on day 2 and day 12, I think it was. Okay. So we got negative on day 2 and negative on day 12. Now, even through all of that travel, we were very vigilant about who we interacted, if we interacted with anybody, and wearing our PPE, and wearing our masks and social distancing. So even though we did travel on planes to Hawaii, travel on a plane to LA, travel on a plane to New Zealand, we were very vigilant about wearing. We had 2 masks on, N95, as well as another mask. We wiped down everything. I mean, we were very vigilant about making sure we followed the proper precautions of keeping our family safe.
Keep ourselves safe,
okay.
But also
now, I'm sorry.
Others.
All right, go ahead. Finish. I just want to make sure I explain the process.
I'm glad. I just want everybody to understand the entire process. So you guys tested negative on day 2, day 12.
Uh-huh.
You finally got the approval at some point to go from Auckland to Wellington, where you now live.
Yep.
But once you left Auckland, you didn't have to wear masks anymore. And as people can see that if you're watching this on YouTube, you guys are maskless now. And if you follow either one of these wonderful people on Facebook or Instagram, all their pictures while they've been in New Zealand have been maskless. So tell us about that. How freeing is that? What's the COVID status in New Zealand? I think I looked, and I haven't really seen anything in terms of community spread or anything like that. So let's talk about COVID for a second. How freeing is that to not to be in a mask anymore?
Now, it's amazing. I mean, you still got to be a little cautious, but it's amazing. But the way that they have it done, and there hasn't been a community spread within a month, I believe. The last community spread they had was in Auckland. When they do community spread, they trace it down to where that person, I think Sil said an elevator or a trash can.
They traced it back to an elevator button and
the trash can. So not only if somebody tests positive, they isolate, quarantine, trace. They have these. Did you ever take a picture of one of those COVID trackers?
I don't have
Every store you go into, now it's optional whether you do it or not, but I've seen the majority of people in New Zealand do it. There's a little barcode that you scan on your phone. It's called the COVID tracer. Okay, so once you scan that barcode, it lets you know if anybody has ever tested positive for COVID in that area. It also lets you know if somebody does test positive, they can trace who was in that area around that time frame, so they can let them know, isolate, and go get tested.
Yeah.
You know, so
they got the numbers down so low that it's actually possible to do the contact tracing and to do the isolation.
It's impossible to do that in the United States.
Yeah, because it's just
so rampant.
You'd never have enough resources to manage that.
Because they took initiative in the beginning, you know, it afforded them the opportunity to gain control, to control the COVID. And now, like I said, there's no community spread cases here. And so masks are not.
It's not rocket science. I mean, it's the same thing that public health experts have recommended worldwide, is that you need to go into lockdown early on, get the numbers down, and then you need to put the resources in place so that you can do the contact tracing, recommend that those people isolate, get the test, and have an adequate number of tests so people can get tested when they need to. And I apologize if you can't hear us.
Hey, listen, Informal Conversations listeners, I just want to apologize. You know, they're near a private jet airport. So, you know, every once in a while, you know, Bill Gates or somebody going to fly over and, you know what I mean? We're sorry. I mean,
the private jet. I'll tell you what, Leon, when we came out of that isolation in Auckland and we went to the airport and there were all these people around and nobody was wearing masks, I was like, it was like culture shock to me. It took me a minute because I'm like, yo.
It took a while to feel comfortable.
I need a mask. It felt like, you know, being used to wearing a watch and not having your watch on. I felt naked without my mask. I get around somebody, they get too close, I would literally hold my breath. Like, I am not breathing in the air that you just breathed out, okay? I don't care what they say. So it took a minute for me to
get comfortable
reacclimated and adjusted to being out in public and being close to people and not wearing a mask and not freaking out about it.
We go out to dinner, we go to movies, we just did a Polar Express train.
Polar Express train.
Went to a play the other night, and
the kids get to go to playground.
Kids go to playgrounds, interact with their peers and stuff. So we go Uber and stuff. So it's like
it's not even a new normal. It's like just normal. Just like pre-COVID.
And we scan wherever you go. If you go to a little hot dog stand on the street, you scan your COVID track.
See, but there's the issue. All these things that you're talking about, people in America will never do. Well, I'm not gonna say it because I'm lumping a whole group of people together, but the majority of the people in this country wouldn't do that because now the government is interfering with my life because now they're tracking me. I listen, I'm on a group text with my brother and my cousins, right? I'm not going to say which one of my cousins said this, but we were talking about the vaccine. I wanted to get you guys' input about the vaccine, but we were talking about the vaccine, right? Mm-hmm. His thing was, first he posted the video of the lady in Tennessee. I guess he had just got the vaccine and then she passed out. The next thing he said was, and the government is putting trackers in the vaccine. And I'm like, come on, cuz. Come on, cuz. They already you got an Apple phone, you got an iPhone or Android. They're already tracking you if that's what you believe. So anyway,
even blame your cousin or blame others who believe those things because there's just been hundreds of years of abuses that have led to this culture of mistrust. Mm-hmm. So it is understandable why people fear the government or fear Big Brother or whoever these agencies are, where they're, you know, supposedly making billions of dollars and everything. It's because we have a history of being mistreated and abused and used for experiments, and it's terrible. And now there's a lot that the U.S. has to do as a whole to repair that trust. But I can say very strongly and definitively that the risk associated with getting coronavirus and having serious complications or even death is way higher than having any complications from getting this vaccine. Mm-hmm. There may be the rare person out there who, regardless of what the vaccine is, could have been the flu vaccine or could have been immunization for measles, mumps, and rubella, who will have reaction to the vaccine. But that is so rare. I can't even give you the statistics on it, but I know that it's like 0.01%. But the likelihood of getting coronavirus and the likelihood of having a serious complication from it is way greater. So please, people, get the vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It is safe. But and still, the relative risk is like incomparable.
But still, we still have those people out there that are saying, if I get coronavirus, it's like the flu. I'm going to get chills and maybe lose my taste. Feel bad for a couple days. I'm not going to die. And if we look at the numbers, okay, we've got 15 million people who've caught it. Only 300,000, not my words, but the people's words, only 300,000 people have died. That's like 0.0001%. Why should I get the vaccine?
Yeah. Right. I say a couple of things to those people. So, one, I'm not putting my life in the hands of anybody else, right? So if you get the virus, there is a high likelihood that you're going to be in that category of people where you may feel ill for a few days and then have complete recovery. But you could also be in that category of folks who dies, or you could be in that category of folks who have 3 months of fatigue after, or the category of people who may have complications from this years down the road. But you don't know which of those buckets you're going to be in. I'm not rolling that dice. And I don't want to be in that bucket of people that has serious complications and needs to go on the ventilator, but I can't get on the ventilator because either one is not available because too many people need it at the same time, or because the physician looks at me and sees a Black person and thinks, they'll be fine. We're going to send them home, save our resources for someone else. And I will not say that physicians do that consciously. It's done subconsciously. The reason why the outcomes are so different between us and other communities is because of implicit bias. And the definition of implicit bias is that it's implicit. They're not aware that they're making decisions based upon your race and their race. So it's not being done intentionally, but it does happen. I don't want to put my life in the hands of someone with implicit bias. So when you look at the relative risk of everything that could go wrong with getting coronavirus versus the risk of what could go wrong with getting that vaccine, the vaccine is way safer. And I would get the vaccine every day and twice on Sunday over getting coronavirus.
I just got off the phone with my cousin, who he has coronavirus now, and he was like, the pains, the body aches, the shortness of breath. He couldn't even get himself dressed the other day, to get to the hospital because he was so in pain. And the thing is, we may survive. Yeah, we may, but at what cost? You know what I'm saying? And then the thing is, if you got to do that, there's other people around you that have to take care of you. Will they be all right? You know what I'm saying? Will your parents make it? Will your kids make it? 300,000 people didn't. And are you okay with that? Are you okay with, I survived. Hey, my dad died, fuck it, I survived. Oh, excuse my language. I survived. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So it's just, okay. It's that selfish
mentality,
self-centered mentality that destroys our ability to grow and to progress together. You know what I'm saying? And that's where you lose me. If I get coronavirus, do I think I'll be all right? Probably would be. But we stayed in the house. We stayed away from people. We ordered our foods. We, you know what I'm saying? We didn't communicate with anybody because of one thing that we know is if we stay safe and we did what we supposed to do, we would be able to see her parents. And we had 2 vacations with our parents before we left the country. And we could do that safely because we knew we had not come in contact, and we isolated ourselves for over 14 days before we even saw them.
And we also recognized that we were blessed and privileged to be able to do that.
Yes.
We also recognized that there are a lot of people whose jobs require them to be there in person, and that they could not isolate to the level and extent that we could. But knowing that we could do it, we felt obligated to do it, to be just that impactful as we could to help prevent the spread, because there are people who don't have that option, who do have to be out there. And whatever we could do to help protect others in our community, we wanted to do that. Mm-hmm. So, we just implore everyone, just whatever is within your realm of control, do that and help protect yourselves, help protect your family, help protect your friends, help protect your strangers and people you don't know, so we can get through this together and hopefully have economic recovery and hopefully grow as a people. Yeah.
And I understand a lot of people, the economic piece is real near and dear to people's heart. And people put their blood, sweat, and tears for their businesses and stuff like that. And to face the economic downfall, to that can be devastating. It can be devastating, and it's and I sympathize with them. We as business owners, and I definitely, but to me, you can recover. I always used to tell people, if I lose money, hey man, I just have to figure out a way to get it right back. You have one life. Death is permanent. It's no rebound from that. It's no recovery from that. Whether it's you or someone close to you that you love, can't get them back. I know that. I lost my mom when I was in the 20s, man. I give my right arm or something like to get her back in my life. You know what I'm saying? So when I say death is permanent. There's no return. There's no recovery. So if I have to wear a mask, if I have to take that, take a vaccine, so be it. It's not about me. It's about my legacy and the people around me that I love. So, all of those people, all those conspiracy theory people, if you live that way about the vaccine, live that way about everything you do. You out there eating food that you love. Some people say you won't take the vaccine, but you'll go eat a McRib. I saw a little meme or something like that.
Which is really not a rib either.
It's not. They don't know what it is.
Genetically modified food.
We talked about how we dipped our little red plastic cups into too many containers of who knows what was brewed for us to be worried about getting some vaccine.
There's so many things that we do in our life, if we track our daily life, that just sits on the opposite side of, I'm trying to be safe. I don't want to take coronavirus. I don't want to take the vaccine. I don't trust it. But we live our lives in a manner that's not healthy or will go against that type of mentality. So all I'm saying is just the virus is real. People are dying. The vaccine isn't an end-all be-all. It's not going to save you from getting coronavirus because half of us won't get it for the next 4 to 5 months. Won't get it anytime soon. And it's still in our community. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you still have to be vigilant about what you do and just do the right thing, man. But hence why we're here, because I don't trust that.
All right, well, let's segue into some other things.
Okay.
I know we've talked in length about all these great things about New Zealand. Any surprises on a negative aspect that you guys have come in contact with?
Yeah. My downfall about New Zealand that I really can't get, that I'm upset with is that I didn't come here earlier. Leah, you know me. I told you, it took a lot in me. I wasn't hearing it. I'm not going to know. I'm not going to New Zealand. I'm not moving out of this country. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
that's what
okay.
I'm saying. I'm not coming. I'm not leaving the country. I'm not going to no other country. Look, we go visit, but I'm not going to live, man. I'm American. Man, this,
I heard that a lot. Yeah, we can visit.
Out of the conversations, man. But once I got here, I can't even really explain like the freedom I felt. And it's a joke, so I hope nobody gets offended. But you start walking around saying, "Oh, so this is what white folks feel like." You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
People are so kind to us all the time
Yeah.
and treat us with just basic human dignity and respect all the time.
Yeah.
It's a rarity for us to be treated rudely or to be slighted, and it's amazing. It's like so freeing, and I know we keep using that word. I'm trying to think of something else. I need to expand my vocabulary, but just I think in the U.S. there are so many microaggressions that we face so constantly that it's the norm, and you don't even recognize it for what it is, and you don't even realize the damage that it does to you psychologically, emotionally. And here I feel akin to how I felt in my childhood, where I'm constantly like have a smile on my face and I'm happy to interact with others, and we smile at each other. It's like, things that I haven't felt that way in the United States for years. And it's just so amazing and refreshing, and it's a breath of fresh air. But on the downside, I will share one thing. I know Stan was joking, but and it's something that's really a problem worldwide, is there aren't enough mental health resources. So it's very nice here that folks are given longer appointment times, and so what I mean by that is in the U.S. it's typical for a new intake session with a psychiatrist to be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. Here is at least an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours for your follow-up visit. So after you're familiar to the physician or your mental health professional, again, maybe 15-minute medication checks, maybe even shorter than that, up to 30 minutes. Here is standard to have a full hour for those follow-up appointments. So that's really nice, but the resources are limited. And so there's not enough mental health professionals to meet the demand, and you have people waiting really long times to get care. I hear that right now it's not typical, the numbers that we're facing because of the pandemic. So New Zealand went into lockdown early on, and they had a very strict lockdown where the country was about 90% shut down. And they did that for 4 weeks and slowly released and graduated from the phases to have more autonomy. But during that time, the number of referrals for mental health resources was very low, and then it just climbed substantially afterwards, and it's just kind of overwhelmed the system. So now we have some folks where we've seen them for their intake session, and we're familiar with them and know they need treatment, but they've got to wait about 4 or 5 months until they get established with their therapist. Did we cut out there? Okay.
Yeah, you did, but you're back.
You're good?
Okay,
yeah. Okay. So anyways, so that was pretty disheartening to me. To learn that. And the problem is multifactorial. So the government needs to put forward more funding. There's that private jet again. I need to call up our pilot, tell them we're not ready yet. But then there's also just not enough mental health professionals. Even if the government says, sure, we'll give you 10 full-time equivalents here at your clinic, and that should meet the demand, well, then you also have to have people who have the qualifications to be able to hire into those roles. And there aren't enough. And that's why New Zealand largely recruits people, immigrants from overseas, to come to the country to help fill the gap in the workload kind of age group.
Is that indicative of every aspect of the medical profession over there, where there's a lack of bodies per se for just general practice, for emergency room, for nursing, or is that just for psychiatry, or is that just across the board?
I think so, to a certain extent. It's definitely true for the field of mental health, and that includes all the different disciplines: psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, and occupational therapists. And I think it's true to a certain extent for other fields of medicine. I'm not sure if the situation is as dire as it is with mental health, but it is true where if you have money, you can buy privatized medicine. You can go seek treatment either on your private insurance or just by directly paying the healthcare practitioner. And those who are depending on the free socialized medicine system, they do have longer wait times. So there are some disparities in healthcare here as well. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty disheartening to learn. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's by far better than US.
What do you attribute to that? Is that, what do you attribute to that? Is it just a lack of people wanting to go into those disciplines, or is it because of the low pay?
Yeah, well, it's definitely not low pay. So, I see what you're saying, like low pay compared to what a physician would make in the U.S.
Is it you don't have enough people in the medical profession because the pay is lower than, say, the U.S.?
Gotcha.
Or is it just a lack of interest of people wanting to do those jobs?
I see what you're saying. So I think it's a few things. But one, I will say the minimum wage here is 18 New Zealand dollars per hour, which is like 13 US dollars per hour. So that's pretty amazing. So even those who are in the lowest paid jobs are still making much more money than what we make in the US.
It's not even expected to tip out here. You know, right. You try to tip somebody, they're like,
is the cost of living cheaper there?
It depends on where you live. Okay. So cities like Auckland, Wellington, they're probably more expensive, more like a mid-sized US city. But not nearly like New York City or LA, San Francisco. Yeah. So where do these problems stem from? One, the government doesn't spend a lot of money on healthcare. I think they have a limited budget for healthcare. And it's good in the sense that they are really resourceful about how they use their money, but they could probably expand the budget there some. Also, New Zealand is a small country, so its population is only 5 million, which is maybe like the size of Orlando, like one U.S. city, right?
So they don't get a lot of tax money.
Yeah, their tax money is limited. So they do tax high, and everybody gets taxed about 30%, I want to say. But at the same time, that helps you get free healthcare, free childcare, or, substantially subsidized childcare. I think also the problem is stigma, specifically again with mental health, where some people don't go into the field because it doesn't seem like as nice or of a field of medicine as some of the other areas of medicine. So there's definitely something that can be done for recruitment. And then a large number of New Zealanders will move to another country after they finish their education. I want to say something like 50% will move overseas. And then they tend to come back when they have their families and have children. So that's a large gap there of folks in your working age group who are moving to another country. So that's going to leave a gap for who can fill those positions. And then there's some things similar with the U.S. where the people who have money, New Zealand's becoming a little bit more and more like a capitalist society, who don't want to be taxed higher in order to help expand the resources for those impoverished communities. So I think all of those factors come into play with why there's not enough resources to meet the demand.
Okay, awesome. Trying to see what else I want to ask you guys. I don't want to get too personal. You can tell me if you want to talk about it, you don't want to talk about it. How are your businesses doing here in the U.S. now that you guys are over there? It's been, you guys have been gone for a while, but you've been there for 3 months now, right? How is the business doing here? The businesses?
Yeah, thankfully they're still flourishing. Both of our businesses are doing well. Everything that we were doing before was being done remotely. So whether we're in Orlando or we're here in New Zealand, things are still running as usual. For the few things that do have to be done in person, thankfully Eddie's brother, Joe, who's our office manager, is able to handle those things and manages them very well. COVID, the pandemic, affected my practice a lot in the beginning, where it tends to be people put their health on the back burner when there's more pressing things like, am I going to be able to pay my rent this month? Or am I going to be able to, afford meals and food and things like that? But as the government has put some things in place to help provide people with additional money or safeguards and not being kicked out of their homes and things like that, the number of referrals to the practice improved again. So we're functioning just about at where we were at our baseline prior to the pandemic happening. And I think that now that the election is over and things seem to be going towards more stable, that's helped too. But the pandemic for sure has been a stressor for a lot of folks. And I think that the need has risen tremendously for mental health services. It's just, again, kind of hard to meet that demand. And then for your practice, Eddie?
My practice, once again, like she said, most of the things I do are online through Zoom. I also have an attorney there locally that'll take care of things that I need to take care of as well.
Is that attorney?
Amanda, your sister. No, she's great. She's amazing. Yeah, she helps to maintain, take care of clients and stuff like that. The issue with me normally is because of working hours. Working hours from 9 to 5, which is 3 a.m. for me to 11 p.m. So that's a bit of a challenge at times. If I have something pressing in the morning, then I have to, make sure that I'm up, up to take care of all that. But outside of that, everything seems to be running. We're still making it work. If we were in the States, we'd be doing the same thing, trying to make it work, figure out how to have meetings, how to do depositions, how to handle hearings and mediations and stuff like that via Zoom or some kind of teleconferencing. So, so far so good. We're still being able to provide for our clients and our patients and move the business forward. So,
and like I've told y'all on some of the groups that I've started in WhatsApp, one thing I've known this year is the importance of getting a trust and a will done, protect your family and your assets. And so I've told you guys in previous pods that Eddie or Stanley is my lawyer. You know what I mean? And I've had people come, yo, can he be mine too? And I'm like, unfortunately, you don't live in Florida. But I will say this. If you want somebody that you can trust and that you get a recommendation from, get in contact with me. I'll get in contact with Stanley, and Stanley will give you some people depending on where you live. If he's not able to practice law in that specific state, put you in contact with somebody who can. So hit me up. And Dr. Sylvia, like I said before, people would love to hear more about your mental health. And so whenever you're ready to do a podcast, we're ready and able to accommodate you on whatever time frame and give the people the information, give the people what they want. So.
All right. Yeah, that sounds great, Leon.
That sounds good.
Let's see, what else?
So,
how are family and friends dealing with you guys being in New Zealand?
Good question.
That's the hardest part.
That's the hardest part.
That's definitely by far the hardest part about this is being away from family and friends. And, I try to say to myself, well, if I was in Florida, I still probably wouldn't see most of them anyway, just because of the pandemic and trying to do our part to protect the health of others and ourselves. But just knowing that you could drive down the street and be able to see your family is very reassuring. And so it's hard. I think that once it's safe to travel again, that will make things much easier because then family can come visit us. We can go home and visit our family and friends. But we constantly get the question, so when are you guys coming back? It's like,
hey, look, Trump is out of office. You can come back.
Hey. Don't start talking about that. That's one of my questions.
No, but that has been one of the hardest things to deal with. I mean, like with her 25th birthday that just passed, being without family to celebrate that moment, is always difficult. It gets to the point sometimes it's hard where we actually start contemplating, should we go back? That's something that we still have to work out as we move forward on this journey. I think at the end of the day, we've always come to the agreement that we being here is the best place for us right now. It's the safest place for our kids, and it's a great environment for them to grow and flourish. And to me, that always kind of like trumps any other desire to move back. Once again, it's not like it's not forever. You know, we're always open to what tomorrow holds. You know, and we'll take on that decision when the time comes. But right now, I mean, we're probably in one of the prettiest places in the world, living life normal and healthy and safe. So, you know, the family part is definitely a hard pill to swallow, and we'll continue to address that issue as we move forward and move along down this journey.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm hoping I can convince the family.
Yeah, we're trying to get the family to come here.
Become expats too.
Become expats.
I feel like we talked about this a lot. Like, what is it, you know, the draw, the pull that the U.S. has over us, where so many of us feel like it's, you know, the best country in the world, and why would we ever want to leave? And, you know, when you're there, it's kind of like being in a cage, but your cage is just dressed up really pretty, and you don't even realize you're in a cage. The door is wide open, but it's like, why would I want to leave this comfy cage? And then when you actually get out, and it's like, oh man, like you don't realize what you were facing and what you were missing out on until you actually leave and experience something different. And then it's like, then there's the realization, like, man, that sucked really bad.
Then you ask yourself, do you want to go back to the cage?
Listen, I was gonna say something, but I don't want people to get mad at me, so I ain't gonna say it. But a cage analogy.
Huh? It's the informal conversation.
Has the election changed anything for you guys? I think, you know, we talked about this right before we started recording. Everybody wanted Trump out of office. Trump's going to get out of office. Biden and Harris are there. Seems like they're going to have a very diverse cabinet that reflects America. We're going to do all these things to bring the country together. America first. Something we've been hearing for, I know, as long as I've been following politics, where I've been paying attention to politics. You know, we got a vaccine on the way. Does any of that help make your decision harder or easier to stay or come home?
It doesn't really change it to me, and I explain why. Because I mean, I love that Trump is out of office. I love the fact that Biden and Kamala are going to be our president, and our vice president. I love that. I love the diversity in the cabinet, you know, but there are so many things in America that needs to change before we can really start seeing true equality to the minority, to us and the other minorities in America. It's so much that, you know, people still are having a hard time having those conversations. Like, why is last year the first real year that we started addressing moving Confederate monuments off of, you know, state, you know, property that government-owned property. That's what I mean, government-owned property. You know, it's stuff that is so embedded, and I keep saying this before, in the fabric of our country, that it's going to take more than Biden and Kamala to change that in 4 years, you know. And
people may scoff at, you know, saying taking down the Confederate monuments and statues and all. I'm like, okay, who cares? It's not a big deal. I was one of those people who's like, I don't care what statue they have up on the university or on the grounds of the courthouse. But then when I framed it differently, and I think you were the one who gave me this example, it's like being in Germany and having a Hitler statue there at the front of your school, or having your school named after one of the Nazis that you attend, because his high school was named after, what was it, Lee Davis?
Lee Davis,
so
and
the leader of the Confederate Army.
Yeah, and
you
then
know,
the
it's like,
mascot was the Confederate.
It seems like small things, but when you reframe it by looking at another group of people who had also been oppressed or mistreated. And he's like, man, no, that's really messed up. And I think that it's wonderful that we are moving in the right direction by voting in Biden and Harris and the diverse cabinet that they're going to have. So we're definitely moving forward, but the hundreds of years of slavery, oppression, Jim Crow laws, and just this inherent superiority that many white people have or feel, and that internalized oppression and inferiority that many minority groups in the U.S. have, like, that is something that's going to take many years to undo.
Layers
of trauma. And what it does to you psychologically, the stress that it puts on like us as African Americans is the reasons why we have poorer health and lower life expectancy. I mean, Biden and Harris in office, is that going to end racial profiling? Is that going to end the police officers who have implicit bias and pull the trigger before they even recognize why they're pulling it? Is that going to end the mistreatment from the store clerk who smiles at one customer and scoffs at the next one, or the treatment that you get at the restaurant where they automatically assume you're not going to tip them well, so they give you really poor customer service, and then when you don't tip them well, they feel justified in how they treated you in the first place? Like, is it going to change all of that?
And not only that,
unfair housing rates, unfair loans for business.
I was going to get to that.
My bad.
That's because that stuff, what you're talking about is safety concerns and stuff that deals with us, But when you look at the disparities in the healthcare systems, that deals with our longevity and our life expectancy. When you look at disparity in the housing rate, that deals with our prevents us to have that ability to grow and build wealth, generational wealth. You know what I'm saying?
And actually, we're doing worse as African Americans now than we were 20 years ago.
Yes, we are. Yes. And people don't understand that.
The likelihood of African American males to slip down the socioeconomic ladder is much high in comparison to other groups. When compared with Black females, when compared with white males or white females, the likelihood for Black males, even if their parents have achieved wealth, for them and their next generation or the generation after that to slip back down into poverty, that is because of systemic racism. Our battery is going 10%. Fast.
10%.
Yeah, so there's so many different factors that we have to weigh. We also want to provide stability for our children, and every time we move, that's yet another transition period for them to get adjusted to. Yeah. But we also want them to be able to be raised around their cousins, around their grandparents, and around their aunts and uncles. And so we're not sure what we're going to do yet outside of pray and ask for God's direction to lead us to wherever it is that he wants us to be. And then we know that we can't go wrong.
Yep.
Was that your Leon, we're out of here?
No.
Nah, seriously, I know. Look, my wife, listen, my wife got the kids out the house. She's been circling the block and doing other things so I can get. She's such a great wife. I love her so much.
I know she is. She's amazing. Tell her what's up.
She asked about you guys all the time. How they doing? I said, listen, you got to follow them on Instagram. They doing good. They're not wearing no mask when they go to the store either.
You're doing something right.
Is there anything else you want to leave the people before we end this one? Words of wisdom. Come to New Zealand.
New Zealand? No, I recommend New Zealand. I mean, New Zealand isn't, I think we said it before, it's not a utopia. They have their own issues. They have their own, oh my gosh, they have their own problems when it comes down to the treatment of the minority community and, but I don't see and I don't feel that it's anywhere near what we experience in the United States. I mean, there's so much trauma, I believe, there that our move here was probably one of the best decisions. Whether we stay here or not, I don't know. We'll see. That book has yet to be written. But it's definitely an experience, and it's definitely something that I think that we cherish and our kids are going to cherish moving forward. We do have the ability to do it, so that's something that also helps us to get to where we are today.
All we can speak to is our treatment as African Americans in the U.S. compared to our treatment as African Americans in New Zealand. We can't really speak to someone else's experience, and we don't want to trivialize their experience because we recognize that in the United States, there are a lot of people who don't appreciate how we're treated as African Americans because they're not African American. They've never had to experience those things. Mm-hmm. And so we can't say how it feels to be a Maori here in New Zealand and what their experience is like. But I can say as an African American in New Zealand, we do not face the same level of oppression. Ooh, well, that New Zealand accent almost came out. Oppression. Or racism here that we do in the U.S. We feel like we're treated with dignity and respect here, like human beings. We feel as if, almost like equivalent treatment that the majority group feels. And it's a beautiful country. It's very safe here. I know we said it on the last podcast that this is the number 2 safest country in the world, and the U.S. was 128 or something like that. And again, you don't even realize it because it's just so normal to turn on the news and hear about yet another homicide that has occurred, yet another victim of human trafficking or violent crime, or another school shooting. I mean, it's just horrendous. And that's a huge part of why we decided to leave. Yeah. Because we started talking about getting that gun. I see your shirt there, yes. We started talking about getting a firearm ourselves. And even though we're so strongly against it, I just recognize man, if things go topsy-turvy, those who have guns are going to have an advantage over those who don't. And so maybe we need one too. And then when we really looked at that, we thought, wow, man, do we really want to stay in a place where we feel like we have to have a gun to protect ourselves? Is that what we really want for ourselves and our family? Do I want my boys to be subjected to that experience of being pulled over by the police or even arrested and have to have that conversation with them, how they have to behave so that they can make it home? Like Eddie's mom used to tell him, you don't want to hold court in the street. You just do what you have to do to make it home safely. I don't want to leave my children's lives in the hands of other people who may be guided by principles that they're not even aware that they have. So anyways, all that to say, I think that people should strongly consider exploring their options, that it doesn't have to be New Zealand. There are many other countries out there that have many great things to offer. And even outside of the things that we've highlighted, just giving your children the experience of living in another culture can give them such a worldly, global perspective and just enhance the quality of their own lives. And so there are a lot of reasons to look at moving overseas. And I would implore people not to be so closed-minded to just the option and the possibility. Maybe for your specific situation, remaining in the United States is best for you and your family. So everybody has their own circumstances to weigh. And ultimately, I think, praying and doing whatever your higher power implores you to do is what's going to be the best way to go for you and your family.
People, listen to the doctor. Listen, I want to I want to thank you both for just opening this experience up to my listeners, giving us of your time and just giving people something else to aspire to. There's other options out there for you to look at, one option over here, one option over there, just not being stuck in jail and scared to leave the jail when the door's open. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I enjoy these conversations, especially since somebody hasn't made the happy hour in like a month. So.
Oh man, that happy hour comes at 11 o'clock on Friday. And these past few weeks, she had me in the store Christmas shopping. And we were traveling. I was trying to get on. We were traveling to South Island when you called. I was like, man, there's no need me getting on freezing up every 2 seconds. So I had to wait.
Get some type of SpaceX has a satellite that you can get direct satellite connection to the internet. Put that on the jet, and you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick though, I want to thank my barber Eddie at Ego for Men. Got me looking right. You know what I'm saying? If you're in Orlando, Florida, look him up on Instagram, Ego for Men. And then also, y'all see me wearing these shirts a lot. My classmate I've known since, I can't remember. I've known her for probably like 30 years. Unique Apparel on Instagram. Go check them out. They got the dope gear. Holla at Tanae. Should take care of you. Unique Apparel. You see me. Got it on. But man.
See if she mail. Does she mail to New Zealand?
Hey,
does
listen.
She ship to New Zealand?
I'll send you the link when we're done. She got all the dope stuff. What she does is she does a lot of old school rap lyrics on her shirt. I know you see me wear a lot of them. Yeah. She'll email them anywhere, bro. Mail them anywhere.
Okay.
Trust me.
Okay.
But man, listen,
right,
bro,
cool.
we're happy for
Always
you guys,
good,
man, and it's good to hear that the move you made was a successful one, and you and the family are doing great, and the kids are excelling in school, and I'm happy for you, bro.
Yeah, we're only 2 months in, so we'll see how it goes the next 2 months. Let's see how this journey takes us.
Hey, listen. As soon as y'all sat down before we started recording, I saw these big, hey, Kool-Aid smiles on your face. I'm like, oh, they doing all right. Listen, if you're not an 80s baby, you ain't going to catch that reference.
They sure won't. They're going to miss out on
hey, Kool-Aid, over here.
I know, over here. No, but life is definitely good, brother, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to help us chronicle this journey. We wouldn't have it any other way. We love sitting there talking to you and talking about some of the things that really affect our community and our culture, and we're going to continue this journey and continue to try to figure out ways to, find a solution and just better our lives as Black Americans.
Yes, sir. Hey, Doc, I'm going to say it again. I know I keep tapping you upside the head with it, but whenever you're ready, I'd love to have you for like a nice 45-minute hour conversation about mental health.
I feel much more comfortable out there now.
We've been stuck in the house, in the United States since February, and I know that I've heard that different types of activities or high. Your baby's there, so I'm not going to say it, but different types of activities that have been negative or higher now. And people need somebody to talk to, and sometimes hearing it from somebody like yourself, they've already kind of gotten used to talking to you when you're not a doctor on this pod, and now they can hear from your doctor. Like, you know what? I'm gonna take her advice and go see a doctor, talk to somebody, lay on the couch. It's not that bad.
And look, everybody, all her providers are telecommunications, so they do telework. She has a great therapist. She has 3 other great psychiatrists that are in Florida that are still operating full force. So if you do need any of that information, you want to plug in your number?
Yes, sure. It's 407-808-5773. But I'm a strong believer that we could all use some therapy. We all go through circumstances in life that can be very challenging, and being able to meet with someone to talk with them about those experiences and get some just objective kind of professional guidance and advice, building up our coping skills and our understanding of how past experiences play into current relationships. There can be so much benefit from it. And then, you have some people who are actually suffering from mental health conditions, medical conditions like depression, anxiety, ADHD, bipolar disorder, PTSD, and then therapy can be helpful, but it might be necessary to be on medication too. And so, it's just like having high blood pressure or diabetes. Sometimes you can manage it with healthy diet and exercise. Sometimes you need oral medication. And sometimes, like for those who have severe diabetes, you need insulin, you know, and that's what you need to survive and to live your best life. Then do it. And who cares what anybody else has to say about it? So, you know, again, that number is 407-808-5773. For anyone who needs help, I implore you to please call. We are ready and available to assist however we can.
See how easy that is, Sil?
It is, just like that.
You reeling it in.
2 hours of informal conversations, you know?
Say that again?
This is after 2 hours of informal conversations. It takes me a minute to get comfortable on the camera.
That's what, hey, listen. All you gotta do is smile and give them the information. Next thing you know, people, hey, listen, man, we gotta get her back. We gotta get them part 3, part 4, part 5. Okay, I see what her availability is. She's busy. She, you know, she's a wife and a mother. You know what I mean? Got a lot going on over there.
Yeah.
But listen, I know it's, you know, it's probably like, what time is it now over there? About 12, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, right around there.
Yeah.
And is it Sunday over there?
Well, yeah, Sunday. It's Sunday. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not. Listen, I'm not going to take up the rest of your vacation. You know, go ahead, break the jet skis out, and go have fun on the yacht in the clear blue water. Listen,
right down there. We're about to get into it.
The water looks crystal clear from where I'm looking.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
It's beautiful.
This is beautiful, but you got that lake that we saw yesterday on the way
beautiful.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
It looked like somebody put some food color in the lake. It didn't look real.
Is New Zealand still locked down for only medical workers?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the borders are still closed. So there are a few exceptions. I think if, of course, if you're a New Zealand citizen, if you are a family member, maybe the spouse or a child or parent of a New Zealand citizen, and then critical healthcare workers. There might be maybe one other avenue, but if you get on the Immigration New Zealand website, you can keep up to date with what the borders are, what the exemptions are, because eventually they're going to open those borders back up. And so even if it's just for a visit, you know, it's a great country to come see and experience.
We on our way.
Hey, you got a place to stay.
I heard that. Well, listen, I'm from my listeners, I'm going to thank you guys. Thank you for your time. Thank you for educating us once again. And whenever you guys are ready to come back on, just drop me a holler and we'll set it up.